Greetings everybody, and welcome back to the Lupine Weekly Budget Battles, the show where me and my community go to our own locals with decks built for $50 or less. As always, if you would like to join us in our endeavor, the links to the Discord are down in the description below, and if you want to see your own deck played by yours truly, there's channel memberships down there too that lets you do exactly that. This week, we are playing the TCG exclusive archetype MIMIGHOUL. MIMIGHOUL is fairly interesting in their gameplay design in that they want to summon themselves to your opponent's side of the field face down and then flip face up for a benefit to you. This means that a lot of your gameplay strategy is going to be setting cards to your opponent's side of the field and through your own effects flipping them at the correct time for massive benefits. The main way you do this is through MIMIGHOUL Master. He can't be destroyed by battle or card effect while your opponent controls any face down monsters, or I control a MIMIGHOUL other than him. You can also use each of the following effects once per turn. When he's normal summoned, you search a MIMIGHOUL monster, and during your opponent's main phase, you can change one face down monster on the field to face up attack or defense. Generally speaking, you will be using this as an interaction point for one of your other MIMIGHOULs, most likely Dragon. Dragon, when it is flipped, destroys all face up monsters you control except MIMIGHOULs, and then gives control of this card to your opponent. Because your opponent will be controlling this most of the time, that means that all of their guys are destroyed, and you get Dragon to your field. If he's normal or special summoned, you can search a MIMIGHOUL spell trap. You also have MIMIGHOUL Slime if you're going first, which if flipped face up lets you special summon a MIMIGHOUL from your deck, or rather your opponent, but in this case your opponent is you, so and then you get Slime back as well. During the main phase, you can also special summon this card to your own field if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, similar to Cyber Dragon. We then have Fairy, which if flipped, you cannot activate the effects of monsters special summoned from your hand, which sometimes shuts down decks entirely because that literally says you cannot activate, so the only way you can special summon some cards is by innate summons, which do happen. There are quite a few cards that do that, but also quite a few that don't. And similarly, you can give this to your opponent. Then during the main phase, you can special summon this card. Then during your main phase, if you control another MIMIGHOUL, you can special summon this one. Lastly, we've got MIMIGHOUL Archfiend, possibly one of the best ones. When it is flipped, your opponent draws a card, you discard a card, so reverse those two, so your opponent has to hand loop one and you get a card, and then we get him back. But if we normal or special summon him, we can flip one of our opponent's monsters face up, which is very important for going first. Through these monsters, oh, actually, I missed Armor. Armor is battle protection. That's what he do. That's what he do. He is also a special summon in conjunction with the Slime, so he basically acts as a Cyber Dragon. However, Armor can do it at any time as long as they control a monster, and Slime can only do it if they have more. Regardless, though, there are a couple of support cards that make this deck incredibly strong, the main one being MIMIGHOUL Dungeon. Dungeon, unfortunately, is a $4 card, so we can only stick 2 of them in the deck because we're playing a bunch of other stuff, but generally speaking, MIMIGHOUL monsters you control that were not normal or special summoned this turn gain attack equal to their original defense. Most importantly, any player who controls a face-down monster cannot normal summon nor declare an attack with monsters that was special summoned this turn, and during the main phase, we can search a MIMIGHOUL monster. This means that as long as we are giving our opponent one of these, they don't necessarily want to flip them because, you know, that gives us a benefit and they don't want to do that, and as long as they don't, that means they can't normal summon. It's kind of insane, actually. This card is extremely good. We also have one of the best starters, I think, ever. Unfortunately, it's a 50-50 card. MIMIGHOUL Maker lets us reveal 2 MIMIGHOULs from our deck, special summon 1 to our opponent's side of the field and 1 to ours. This means that we will generally be picking Slime and Archfiend as our target, hoping that Archfiend ends up on our side of the field. If it does, that will flip up Slime, we get to special summon Dragon from the deck and get Slime out to our field, giving us 3 monsters to do our full plays. It's actually really good. Sometimes, though, we miss, we give them Archfiend and give us Slime, and then end up doing nothing, but yeah. We're also playing 2 MIMIGHOUL Fork, which is one of the weirdest interaction cards in this deck. We get to target a face-down monster our opponent controls and then choose one of the following. We either change it to face-up attack or defense, or send it to the graveyard and we get to draw 2 cards. Now, unfortunately, we don't get to decide this, our opponent does. So if they're trying to out their board, or we just are in a desperate situation, we can try and force them to either give us an extra card or let us draw 2, whichever or is there. In addition to that, we of course have the MIMIGHOUL Maker that we covered earlier, and since all of these guys are level 1, we're playing every single level 1 support card in the game. We've got 1 for 1, we're playing Where Art Thou instead of Parry Reese Map. Parry Reese Map has the problem that it can only get a card with 0 attack from the deck, which in our deck is only Archfiend. It works, but it's not great. Where Art Thou is slightly better with the fact that we can add any level 1 monster with the stipulation that we control a level 1. So if we can't really start a play, we can at least normal summon something, Where Art Thou to search Fairy, and go from there. We're also playing MIMIGHOUL Charm, possibly one of the strongest cards in this entire archetype. Once per chain during the main phase, if a MIMIGHOUL monster your opponent controls is flipped face up, you can randomly choose one face down card in your opponent's extra deck, and if it is a monster that can be special summon it to your field, but you can't activate its effects this turn. If it wasn't, or couldn't be special summoned, banish it. This means that during a normal M board, we're at least sending up 2 or 3 MIMIGHOULs to our opponent if we can pop off. This means we can potentially steal 3 extra deck monsters from them at basically no cost, because we can search out MIMIGHOUL Charm in multiple ways. On top of this, of course, we have the MIMIGHOUL Dungeon that I covered, and then MIMIGHOUL Room. MIMIGHOUL Room simply says we special summon a MIMIGHOUL monster from our hand or deck to our field or face down defense position in our opponent's, and then we Book of Moon a guy. Then, if it is in the graveyard, we can banish it to pick back up any MIMIGHOULs we control to try and avoid destruction effects. That it's kind of good. I'm playing 3 of them simply because A, they're very cheap, and B, they actually do come up a fair bit that you'd be surprised that they do. Now lastly, we are playing one of the most destructive cards I have ever read, and it's probably only relevant for MIMIGHOUL exactly. The card is Summoning Curse. If a monster is special summoned, the current controller of that monster banishes 1 card from their hand, and then once per turn during the end phase, pay 500 or destroy it. I want you to look really closely at this wording. If a monster is special summoned, its current controller. This means that if we activate Summoning Curse and we give our opponent a MIMIGHOUL, we hand rip them for 1. Oh my god, who came up with this card? This card, in all fairness, is very old at this point, so fair enough. However, the fact that this both acts as a floodgate, stopping our opponent from special summoning on their turn unless they are willing to banish their cards, which, you know, in Malice is great, but in every other deck is debatable, we get to do that whenever we give them a MIMIGHOUL. This also works for MIMIGHOUL Room, because we are special summoning straight to their side of the field. It gets absolutely crazy. You could theoretically play 3 of these, but unfortunately they do brick a little bit. However, they stack, so if you somehow open both of these, you're hand ripping them for 2 every time you summon a MIMIGHOUL, and it's absolutely hilarious. For our extra deck, we're playing a copy of Zeus, we're playing a copy of Typhon, and now that he has dropped to 84 cents. Typhon used to be a $30 card and is now able to slot into literally every deck in the Lupine Weekly format, which means he might be hit in the future, but he's here for now. We also play Downward, of course, for the Zeus. We play the Utopic F-Zero Future line because of our 2 main Exceed monsters. MIMIGHOUL Throne requires 2 MIMIGHOUL monsters, and we can attach a material to special summon MIMIGHOUL Master from the deck, or graveyard if he's dead. Then, as a quick effect, we can target a MIMIGHOUL Master and equip it to that card as an equip spell, and then return an equal amount of cards that this had as material to the hand, which is just really good. Our second one is Giant MIMIGHOUL. Non-Exceed MIMIGHOUL monsters can attack directly while your opponent controls a face-down monster. You can use one of each of the effects once per turn. When this card is Succeed Summon, we can add a MIMIGHOUL card, and we can detach a material, then target face-up cards on the field equal to the number of face-down monster your opponent controls, destroy them, and if we do, inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent for each card destroyed. This card is absolutely cracked as it searches us any missing piece of our combo that we don't happen to have, whether that be Dungeon, whether that be Charm, it doesn't matter, it'll pick it up. We're also playing an Assembled Nightingale because again we are level 1, so we can very easily make a Zeus out of this. Then for our links, we're playing a Link Karibo, we're playing IP Masquerena, Nightmare Unicorn, Access Go Talker, and Underworld Goddess as our main targets. Our side deck is just full of a bunch of generic hate cards that we can afford because you know what, it's there. Yeah, this deck is actually really, really fun. I have had a very rough time the last couple of weeks with decks that just did not want to function. I'm hoping we don't have the same issue today. Real quick though, the TCG version of this list is actually a little bit different, so let's swap over to that and let you have a look. Here is the TCG legal version, and as you can see, there have been a couple of changes to it. Let's add it to the TCG ban list. There you go. Generally speaking, we have mostly changed out a bit of the extra deck. We now have an Anima instead of the Link Karibo, as well as the fact that we only have 1 Call by the Grave, but we've kept the rest the same. You could theoretically change the hand trap lineup to anything you'd want it to be. This deck does fairly well and could just kind of muff around with it. Your choice. Anyway, let's go to the games. Here we go for the duels from MIMIGHOUL. Now you may notice that our layout has once again changed. I've shoved all the information to the left side so that I had a space to actually include the duel log in case that is something you want to have. Now you have it. For the first game of today, we are playing up against Lardax, who is playing Plunder Patrol. Unfortunately, our starting hand, as you can see here, is awful for going first. We've drawn Effect Veiler, Where Art Thou, a bunch of conditional hand trap stuff, and a Charm, which is the one of that we usually want to search. So we're not really going to be doing a whole lot here. We're going to give him the Archfiend just so we can go for the Where Art Thou, go into Linkaribo, activate Charm, and set Call by the Grave, and honestly, that's about everything we've got. He's going to droplet it away immediately, hit the Foolish Burial to send a Water Enchantress of the Temple, which we are going to choose to hit by Call by the Grave to prevent it from doing it. He goes for the Plunder Patrol Shipyard, which we are going to destroy with the last hand trap in hand, but he is on Plunder Patrol, so most likely he's going to have some sort of combo anyway. They are woefully consistent when they get going. He goes into Blackbeard. We are just going to get rid of our Linkaribo and take the damage because it is a little bit funny. He's going to go for the Blackbeard to get Lise onto the board. Lise is going to punch us as well, and I don't think there's a lot we're going to be able to do here unless the draw is great. It's not. Game number 2 then, and our starter hang is once again not looking the greatest, but at least we have our field spell this time. We'll go for Dungeon, activate Dungeon to search Dragon. We are going to normal summon Dragon and activate Dragon, which actually goes off to search Maker, and we should be golden from here. We'll activate Maker, we'll reveal Archfield and Slime, and he do manage to get it in the wrong order, unfortunately. We do get the Slime here, so we're going to go into Throne. Throne is going to summon out MIMIGHOUL Master. We're going to activate Master's Effect to search a second Dragon. Because this is basically all we've got, we've just got to set the dragon, we are going to set our room, and we're going to pass turn. Now all we have to do is play control. He's going to flip open the dragon first, which makes perfect sense. He's then going to flip open the Archfiend, and during this, we're going to chain Room. Room here is going to set armor to his side of the field to prevent us from being destroyed in case he wants to flip it somehow, but that's fine. He's going to send the Water Enchantress of the Temple off of the Archfiend, which is super unfortunate for us. That's going to add the Rite of Aramesir, which we are going to draw and Lockbird immediately. He is going to write anyway to get the Adventurer token out. He already had the Griffin in hand, which is unfortunate. We are going to go for the spin to make sure he doesn't have a negate, and that is going to be the end of the game as he realizes he cannot make it out of that one. Game number 3 then, and our hand is looking fairly okay if we were actually going first. We are not, though, which means that the Plunder player is going to get to pop off. He is going to go for the Adventurer engine once again, getting it fully set up through Fateful Adventure here, getting himself the Wandering Griffin Rider, of course. He's going to get the Draco back, the Griffin Rider, and now he can do whatever he wants. He goes for the Redbeard normal summon pass, which actually gives us kind of a chance here. We're going to go for MIMIGHOUL Charm first. We're going to 1-for-1 sending the Slime to summon a dragon from deck. We're going to activate Dragon Effect, which actually resolves... Strange. And we go for Dungeon. We're going to activate Dungeon. Dungeon Effect also resolves for a Fairy. Okay, I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but I'll bite. We'll go for the Fairy Special Summon, going into Giant MIMIGHOUL. This is going to get Effect Veiler, which is unfortunate. We'll go to battle, and we'll try to beat over the Redbeard here to force him into Lise, which is fine. At this point, we are just going to try and go for Zeus, forcing him out once again to get rid of the Downward Magician. He's going to go for Whitebeard. Whitebeard Effect is going to summon Morik, and Morik is going to banish it. That is kind of what we expected, but it was the best we could do under the circumstance. We're going to normal summon the dragon. We're going to Where Art Thou for an Archfiend. Unfortunately, we can't really do much here, but we are going to set the Archfiend. There is a plan behind this, don't worry. We're going to go for Typhon. Typhon is going to attempt to spin. That is going to get the Griffin out of here. That gives us the one card we can use to try and live for a turn. He is going to go for the Draco back immediately. We're going to MIMIGHOUL Room. We're going to set a dragon to the side of the field and then just flip one guy down. That's about as much as we can do. We could have flipped Jord here to prevent him from searching another card, but it wouldn't really have mattered much. He's going to switch everything into attack position. This is going to go for the Archfiend effect, and we are going to steal one of his Lises, which is interesting. We draw Dark Hole, which is pretty good. He goes for the Morik to banish the Archfiend. Weirdly enough, not quite sure why he didn't just banish the Lise, but I'll take it. He goes for the full shenanigans that they do. He activates Plunder Patrol Shipyard. He does the Fateful Adventure shuffling around. You know how it works. We're Griffin Rider's back on board. He's got a negate again. He's going to punch us for a bazillion damage, but that is about everything we can do. We do, however, survive the turn, which is impressive, so here we go. Heavy Storm is funny. We'll go for Dark Hole, which obviously is going to bait at the negate here, and that is perfect. We're then just going to go for the Dungeon searching another copy of Archfiend, to which we are going to normal summon said Archfiend to flip the Dragon. Dragon here is going to explode. We're also going to get a lot of chain activations here. We're going to save our cards because he does a bunch of stuff. We get a White Aura Whale from his deck, which is funny, and we get the Dragon. The board is now blown up. We have taken control of the board. We're going to give him an Archfiend to prevent him from normal summoning. We're going to go into Linkaribo to protect our own life points, and we're going to pass turn. At this point, he's going to go for the Fateful Adventure, get himself Water Enchantress, and then discard Water Enchantress to get himself Rite of Erosimir by banishing it. Shocking surprise there. At this point, I'm thinking, okay, we are still in the game, because again, special summoned monsters cannot attack the turn they are summoned as long as they have a face-down monster, and he doesn't necessarily want to flip that thing. Unfortunately, these guys actually play around us fairly well. He goes into Jord, Pen scales the Jord in order to get a card, gets the Pen scale effect to summon 2 fire tokens, goes for the Black Eyes, returning a card to his hand, which is going to be White Eyes, or White Beard, or whatever it is. There's a bunch of things. He's going to go for the Battle Phase here, so he's going to go into Bran. Bran is going to get rid of the MIMIGHOUL dungeon, and he has 3,000 attack, which is just enough to kill us. He's going to go into the token. I think this is fine. I don't have any use for the token, so him killing it is okay. We are going to Heavy Storm here. That is our only play. We're going to battle over the Bran, I think is the fire one, yes, and then we will simply pass turn and hope he can't do anything because we drew into the one MIMIGHOUL that did not let us win the game, which is Slime. Any other MIMIGHOUL could have done it here. Unfortunately, he is going to do his full combo again because he has so many Jords, and you know, this is what Plunder Patrol is very good at. They've got the grind game down. And it's not really going to be a lot we can do about it. He's going to go to Blackbeard. Blackbeard's going to punch over here and obviously go to 0. He's going to tag out for the Moark. Moark is going to banish the White Aura Whale. And it's looking bleak. He goes for the token, or sorry, the emblem, which is going to give him a lease, and now he has a, now he's got a negate open as well. We do draw Terraforming, but it is unfortunately 1 turn too late, because no matter what monster we search here, it is going to be negated, and Slime does not do anything. It's very unfortunate. We got ashed anyway. It didn't end up mattering. It was close. So with a loss under our belt, we go into round number 2, and we're going up against Shadowcrow, who is playing Grenmaju of all things. We open the absolute nuts here, because we've got Summoning Curse. Watch what we're about to do. We'll normal summon the MIMIGHOUL Dragon in order to search Maker, and even if there was a hand trap here, we have the Call by the Grave. We're gonna go for the MIMIGHOUL Maker, revealing both of them and actually hitting the correct order this time, getting Slime to our opponent's field and Archfiend to ours. Archfiend will flip Slime, Slime will summon Armor and give itself to us. We're gonna go for the Giant MIMIGHOUL, which is going to search us MIMIGHOUL Dungeon. We'll activate MIMIGHOUL Dungeon and search anything that we feel like. I think we'll take a dragon at this point. That sounds pretty cool to me. We're going to overlay for the Throne, activate Throne in order to get Master. Master will search us anything else, and I'm thinking an Archfiend sounds pretty neat at this point. Now with our board established, we're going to activate Summoning Curse and give our opponent the Archfiend, forcing him to banish a card. We're then going to do the same thing for MIMIGHOUL Dragon, forcing him to banish yet another card. We're then going to set our Call by the Grave, pay our 500 to do, and pass turn. He's going to go for the Pot of Extravagance, drawing 2, to which we're going to draw Unlock, but immediately he'll go for Bigfoot. We unfortunately have to stop it, so Summoning Curse stays up. He'll go for Thunderbird. We'll flip open the Archfiend to block the Thunderbird activation, because it's one of those old cards that is a when effect. He special summons. It doesn't really matter. He goes for the Gizmek Orochi. He has to banish again. We will spin that card back to hand, and unfortunately, it does not have to be banished here, because it was not in the same chain. Unfortunately, but we survived that turn very easily. We'll go for the Dungeon to search a fairy, and at this point we are essentially free to do whatever we want. We'll give him a fairy to make sure that the Gizmek Orochi goes away, but unfortunately for us he can just chain it and summon it, which is honestly completely fine. We'll go for the Maker here. The Maker's gonna flip open the Dragon, blowing up his entire board. We will simply go into a Giant MIMIGHOUL on our turn. We will happily banish the Where Art Thou from our hand in order to grab a MIMIGHOUL room from the deck. We'll go to battle, we'll beat over the fairy, we'll punch him in the face a couple times. That's perfectly fine, because no matter what card he draws here, he is not getting to keep it. He draws a card here, and we are just going to straight up activate Room. We're going to give him a dragon. That's going to force him to banish whatever card was in his hand, which was Monster Reborn, and at this point, he scoops them up. Game number 2 then, and we are going first again, and our hand is very similar. We'll go for Dragon, Search Maker, and by God, you've seen it before. I'll let you skip it. Yeah, we just hand-looped our opponent for 3 while setting up our full combo, and all it cost us was 500 life points. He's going to activate Heavy Storm here, and we're going to rescue our MIMIGHOUL Dungeon by actually spinning it back to our hand, which is fine. We are going to protect ourselves by flipping open the Dragon to make sure the MIMIGHOUL Master can't be destroyed, and since we have Dungeon in hand on the Crackback and our opponent has absolutely 0 cards in hand, you can probably figure where this one's going to go. We definitely have the grind game when we actually get our setup going, and as you can see, it's incredible. Now, we go for the fork here. He allows us to draw 2 cards instead of flipping something. We'll go for another giant MIMIGHOUL, search a room, making sure that there is going to be no retaliation no matter what he does. We simply end our turn, letting him have a face down so he can't normal summon. You saw this one coming, folks. For our last game today, we're playing up against Bosque, who is playing the new Ancient Fairy Dragon stuff, which is kind of neat. We do get to go first, then we open Terraforming, which means we are going to search Dungeon. Dungeon is going to go off, which is going to get ashed, but that's perfectly fine as we already had the dragon in hand. We're going to get Maker off of this, and we're going to try to go for full combo as much as we can. We'll go for the Maker, Slime, and Archfiend, and our opponent gets the Slime, and we get the Archfiend. We are in good graces today. We'll flip open the Slime. Slime will summon the Armor, and we'll grab ourselves both. We'll go for the Giant MIMIGHOUL, and we're going to get MIMIGHOUL Charm this time around, because we have basically everything else. We're going to activate Charm. We're going to go into Throne. Throne is going to summon Master. Master is going to grab the Archfiend, which I think is going to be well more than enough with our hand. We'll go for the Archfiend here, and we will simply pass to our opponent after making Utopic Draco Future, hoping that that's enough to stall out. He is going to flip open the Archfiend immediately, which is great. We're going to go for the Charm, and we're going to be stealing fucking Dissipator. All right, we'll take his Dissipator. We'll draw a card, which is going to be called by the grave. He's going to discard the Herald of Green Light. He's going to go for Terraforming for the World of Spirits, which is the new field spell card that they use, which is perfectly okay. We'll hit him with the Droll and Lockbird here. He's going to TTT. He's going to grab MIMIGHOUL Master, normal summoning Ash Blossom, going into AFD, activating World of Spirits, chaining AFD, to which we obviously aren't going to allow that, and that's going to be game 1. Game number 2, then. We are going second this time, and we open no interaction whatsoever, so we are preying on his downfall. He goes for Regulus at the Fairy Beast to search the new trap card Eternal Sunshine, which is essentially a up to 5 monster negates. You get a negate for every card that mentions Ancient Fairy Dragon. It's kind of interesting. He goes for Kurban the Fairy Spirit, and then sets 2 passes to us, but we have opened the Heavy Storm, baby. We'll go for the Heavy Storm immediately. He's going to chain Crossout Designator, naming Called by the Grave. That's perfectly fine. If he has something, we can play around with our hand anyway. We'll go for the Dragon. Dragon's going to activate, and we'll search ourselves MIMIGHOUL Charm. And at this point, he knows he's already lost the game, and we take the win. And that, everybody, was MIMIGHOUL. Honestly, I had a ton of fun in playtesting this deck as well, because this deck just kind of comes out of nowhere and does really, really silly things to the board, and those are my favorite types of decks in the game. I don't think this is ever going to be a really meta-relevant deck just because of how limited in scope it is, but by God, if you take this to locals, there is a possibility you could be absolutely tearing people up with this. But let's rate it really quickly, and I will tell you why. We are going to start off with the power level, and this is one of the strongest decks we have ever played, simply because this is a deck that can potentially hand-rip your opponent for their entire hand going first, while still setting up your entire game plan. That alone rockets this deck up in power level. Unfortunately, you need a very specific hand to do this. Obviously, you're going to have to open Summoning Curse, but you're also going to have to open specifically Dragon and a MIMIGHOUL Maker to make that happen. However, if you do open this, you can hand rip your opponent for 4, you can set Archfiend to your opponent's side of the field, and you will have the MIMIGHOUL room to rip the last one. It's absolutely insane, but it is physically doable. For that reason, a 9 should be sufficient. However, there should also be mentioned that the board you make in and of itself is actually really interesting. Archfiend on its own, being able to rip a card and draw a card for you, is very strong. That could potentially draw you into a hand trap that is just more gas on your opponent's turn. Dragon acting as a Raigeki, and just Fairy sometimes protecting you from card effects, and even Armor being summoned off of Room can actually come up really clutch, because you can protect your entire board for a turn. You have really good ways of interacting, and don't underestimate it is all I'm saying. This thing's scary. As for consistency, it's getting a strong 5. For mostly MIMIGHOUL Maker is the reason for this. MIMIGHOUL Maker and MIMIGHOUL Dungeon are incredibly strong cards, and if we were able to afford... Hey, it's 420, nice. If we were able to afford a third one of these, we definitely would have. This card is insanely good. Maker and Dungeon make this entire thing work, because obviously if you do not open Archfiend and one of the other MIMIGHOULs without it, you're basically not doing anything. Because, however, it is very easy to search out MIMIGHOUL Maker, whether or not you get Dragon, or you can somehow get into a giant MIMIGHOUL, you're kind of good. You'll do your entire normal combo from there and it'll work just fine. Unfortunately, if your opponent knows about this deck and they hit Maker with something, you're not gonna have a great time. As for resistance, then, yeah, it's a solid 5 as well for exactly the reason I just mentioned. If Maker gets hit, you are in a terrible spot unless you've opened a very specific hand. Sometimes Fork can help get out of this by forcing your opponent to make you draw 2 instead of flipping a guy up that will let you do your combo, but even then it is kind of rare. I think middle of the road is fine. You can play through some hand traps. Again, if they hit something like Dungeon and you already have Dragon, then you can still do the full thing and it's fine. Sideboarding, we are very, very good at, actually. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. In games 2 and 3, we can operate on very different axes that our opponent might not expect, because we are operating on their side of the board. The only time, obviously, this does not work is if they've filled their entire board, but that's getting rarer and rarer these days, so usually we can get around it. That also because most of our hand trap lineup is completely interchangeable. Most of the cards that we play here, like Summoning Curse, obviously if you're in the TCG you have one Call by the Grave, whatever, Pot of Avarice can easily be changed out if you don't feel like you need it. All of the other hand traps can just be swapped for going second power cards that help you clear the board and do whatever you want to do, and still manage to do everything you want to do as an actual deck, because you can operate entirely within main phase 2 and still give trouble for your opponent to knock them out next turn. It's one of the very few decks that can do that, and I think that's great. In terms of difficulty, it's getting a 6. The only reason I don't think this is a super duper easy deck to learn is that, again, it's got a lot of weird interactions when your opponent starts interacting with you. It's not a very clear-cut case of play it in this order and just make sure it works, because you actually do have some weird combo lines you need to go through in case you get hit on some main cards like me. This ends off MIMIGHOUL with 33 points, putting it in the C tier, which I think is actually fairly decent for them. Considering these guys are TCG exclusive and nobody seems to be paying them any mind, I would say bring this to locals and you'll have an absolute blast with them. Now, however, we do have to spin the Wheel of Decks to decide next week's deck. Alright, we're back at the wheel, and the decks are running smaller and smaller. Unfortunately, Argomatica seems to have shown up again, even though we still can't do that one because the cards aren't released. Oops. We are now in about a 10 decks left or so of the decks that I would like to do for the series, so I'm happy with any one of these, to be honest. We'll just have to give it a spin. Just don't give me Watt. I don't want... Oh, boy. Well, I guess next week is going to be great fun.